Tonight on News Prime, Police Council approves Disso as Substantive Inspector General of Police. In business, President Tinubu directs Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission on Gas Command Center implementation. And on the foreign scene, United Nations nuclear watchdog convenes amid Middle East tensions. And in sports, Super Falcons regroup for second leg friendly against Cameroon. Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Prime on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Jumai Manson. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Now the news in full. The National Police Council has unanimously endorsed the appointment of Olatunji Disso as Substantive Inspector General of Police. The Special Advisor to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga, confirmed this after the Council's meeting at the State House, Abuja, which lasted about 40 minutes. The meeting is in compliance with the provisions of the Police Act 2020, which requires the Police Council to consider the appointment. Over now to the Senate Committee on Finance has rejected the 2026 revenue projections presented by the Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, describing the document submitted by the agency as inadequate and poorly structured. Lawmakers said the commission failed to provide detailed records of its 2025 revenue generation, expenditure, and projection for 2026. National Assembly correspondent Anete Patrick reports.
Senator Issa expressed dissatisfaction with inconsistencies in revenue figures, remittances, and outstanding obligations contained in the document presented by the Registrar General and Chief Executive Officer of CAC, Hussaini Ishaq Magaji.
You have to provide explanations for the variances. Expected, actual. And you understand? Hello, expected, actual, and the variance, and explanations for those variants. Then for 2026, we need the assumptions, clear-cut assumptions, okay, underlining your figures.
The chairman of the committee, Senator Sani Musa, subsequently asked CAC to review its submission and provide comprehensive explanations addressing revenue remittances, outstanding liabilities, and financial projections on Thursday, March 5th.
What you need to do, we will step you down now. Then you make sure that you package everything so that by the time you present to us and we looked at it, whatever question we have to raise, we'll raise it. I know that you are not taking any money from the national budget. You are self-funded, but there is a certain percentage that's supposed to be retained by you and the other to be remitted to the Consolidated Revenue Fund.
Earlier, Magaji tendered an unreserved apology to the committee over his absence at a previous budget defense session and an interactive meeting with the federal government's economic team, blaming the incident on an internal communication crisis within the commission.
I hold this committee in high esteem, sir. What happened that day, sir, it's actually a miscommunication between our staff and the committee. I was coming from Lagos, sir, and I asked them to come in advance to let the committee know that I am coming because we received the letter a day, evening before that day. So I had to leave some of the activities that took me to Lagos and rush back.
The absence had earlier angered lawmakers, prompting calls for President Bola Tinubu to sack the Registrar General over what senators described as disrespect to the Senate. Following a motion moved by Senator Issa Jibril, the committee rescinded its earlier resolution recommending his removal and withdrew proposed disciplinary measures. From the National Assembly, Anete Patrick reporting for Global TV News.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, said the National Assembly approved a hybrid system of electronic and manual transmission of election results in the amended Electoral Act To prevent voter disenfranchisement and reduce apathy ahead of the 2027 general elections, Abbas explained that Nigerians' limited internet penetration and unstable power supply made it impractical to rely solely on real-time electronic transmission across the country. Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu has reminded members of the National Assembly that beyond their constitutional powers, they remain accountable to God for every decision and every law they enact. The admonition came at the commissioning of the newly completed National Assembly Chapel in Abuja. National Assembly correspondent Anete Patrick tells us more.
The dedication of the National Assembly Chapel marked the completion of a project first conceived during the 6th Assembly and formally initiated in the 8th Assembly by former Speaker Yakubu Dogara. Addressing lawmakers, clergy, and senior government officials, the First Lady described the occasion as historic and deeply personal, recalling her 12 years in the Senate where Christian legislators held fellowships in committee rooms due to the absence of a dedicated worship space. She said while lawmakers represent over 200 million Nigerians, they must remember they ultimately answer to God.
As we dedicate this chapel today, may it inspire humility in leadership, courage in decision-making, and compassion in service. And may Nigeria continue to flourish as we collectively seek the face of God in worship.
In his remarks, President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, described the structure as more than a building, calling it a spiritual milestone for Nigeria's democracy. He stressed that governance must be guided by conscience and divine wisdom.
And unless the laws of men reflect the justice of God, they may command obedience, but they will never command reverence nor shape the destiny of humanity.
Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, said the chapel symbolizes accountability under God's sovereign authority, especially at moments where debates threaten national interests.
Chambers where debate can become combative and politics can become consuming. The fellowship has kept alive the reminder that we are first and foremost accountable to a higher calling. This chapel is a physical expression of that accountability.
Former head of state Yakubu Gowon urged lawmakers to prioritize national unity, while former Speaker Dogara emphasized repentance and forgiveness as keys to national healing. The exhortation was delivered by the Catholic Bishop of Sokoto, Matthew Hassan Kuka, with prayers offered for Nigeria and its leaders. The ceremony drew top political figures and religious leaders, reinforcing what speakers described as the enduring intercession between faith and governance. From the National Assembly, Anete Patrick reporting for Global TV News.
The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor George Amupitan, has assured Nigerians that the commission has the capacity to electronically transmit election results in 2027, but cautioned that it may not be able to guarantee a 100% perfect election. Amupitan appealed to Nigerians to manage expectations, saying the commission will strive for excellence but could not promise perfection. The INEC chairman described elections as central to democratic governance, emphasizing the importance of voter education and institutional transparency. The National Agency for the Control of AIDS has announced that Nigeria will take delivery of a groundbreaking HIV prevention drug that has shown 100% effectiveness in preventing HIV infection in clinical trials. A statement by the head of public relations, NACA, Toyin Aderagbi, said the agency has secured regulatory approval from the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control. The drug is an injectable treatment administered twice a year, making it a more convenient alternative to daily oral prevention drugs. The federal government has blamed a technical hitch for the delay in the payment of February salaries to Treasury-funded workers, announcing that the disbursement had managed nationwide. In a statement issued in Abuja, the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation said it had started paying affected workers after resolving the issue, but disrupted the schedule. However, the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation has begun disbursing February 2026 salaries to federal government Treasury-funded workers starting Monday, March 2nd, 2026, following a brief delay. Minister of Education Dr. Tunji Alausa has inaugurated Ministerial Monitoring, Evaluation and Implementation Committee on Tertiary Education Trust Fund, high-impact projects for engineering and technology for faculties of universities. Sadatu Garba tells us more.
Addressing stakeholders at the event, the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, said the intervention is part of the broader reform agenda to ensure that universities are not just centers of theoretical learning, but hubs of practical training, research, innovation, and problem solving. He described the inauguration as a critical milestone in deliberate and strategic efforts to position engineering and technology education as a driver of industrialization, innovation, and sustainable national development.
Today's event marked a critical milestone in the deliberate and strategic efforts of the federal government of Nigeria to reposition engineering and technology education as a driver of industrialization, innovation, and sustainable national development.
Executive Secretary of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, Soni Echono, said the initiative is one of many on the way, as they are aimed at ensuring improved teaching and learning facilities, modern infrastructure, and better educational outcomes across Nigerian universities. He stressed that the implementation process must be monitored effectively.
Other interventions that we made to ensure that the teaching and learning facilities on these campuses and vital infrastructure are improved upon.
The Senior Special Assistant to the President on Student Engagement, Sunday Asefon, said the program ensures that students are able to apply their knowledge practically, which will also contribute to shaping their future.
That Nigerian students can benefit from. Likewise, our lecturers can also testify to it.
The inauguration is a strategic national investment in Nigeria's future engineers, technologists, innovators, and industrial leaders, with facilities that allow them to design, fabricate, test, innovate, and industrialize solutions. Sadatu Garba, reporting for Global TV News.
The Nigerian Education Loan Fund has extended its student loan application portal following a surge in the nationwide interest generated by its ongoing awareness campaign. The extension was contained in a statement signed by the Director of Strategic Communications, NELFund, Osuyemi Oluwatui, noting that the extension comes after a reminder last week that the portal was set to close on February 27, 2026. In response to strong feedback from students and stakeholders, NELFund announced additional days to allow eligible students significant time to complete their applications. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, has announced the commencement of the 2026 direct entry registration. In a statement posted on its official X account, the board said the scale of application documents began on Monday, March 2nd, today, 2026, and will end on Saturday, April 25th, 2026. JAMB advised prospective direct entry applicants that the registration service can only be accessed at its own offices nationwide. The Nigerian Army has trained 60 young soldiers to strengthen efforts to protect oil facilities and curb oil theft in Niger Delta. The soldiers drawn from the 89 regular recruit intake completed the training barely 2 months after passing out from the Nigerian Army Depot. The exercise was held at the headquarters of 3 Battalion Nigerian Army in Delta State. The training was monitored by the commander of 63 Brigade Nigerian Army, Shodibare, and the commanding officer of the battalion, Abdulaziz Haruna, alongside officials from other security agencies. Meanwhile, Joint Security Agencies in Ekiti State are currently curbing the forest in the North Senatorial District to rid the area of bandits fleeing from neighboring Kwara and Kogi State. The Special Advisor to the Governor on Security Matters, Brigadier General Ebenezer Ogundana, retired, said both conventional and unconventional security agencies were involved in the ongoing operation. Speaking to journalists, Ogundana said the operation, which began last week, had personnel from the Nigerian Army, Department of State Services, Nigerian Police Force, Civil Defense, Ametokun Corps, State Agro-Martial Corps, vigilante groups, and local hunters. You are watching the live broadcast of News Prime. The News Prime continues after this weather forecast plus business, foreign and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us.
Hello and glad you could join us. It's still very much hazy over the country. We presently have our eyes on this dust plume just above the country. Even though it appears to be moving zonally, we expect some of this dust to finally get to the country. So we have prospects of moderate dust haze to affect the extreme northern part of the country for Tuesday. It should be hazy over much of the central states, while we expect prospects of rains for the southern part of the country, with these prospects higher to the southwest coast and Bayelsa. If you're anywhere within the western parts of Kwara and Oyo, you could wake up to very cloudy morning, even though the prospect of rains are a bit slim. There's an increased chance of thermal discomfort for the southern half of the country and parts of the central states, while we have a high to moderate vigilance for meningitis over the extreme north and the central part of the country, and you may want to take care. That's it from here. Thank you for watching.
You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is News Prime on Global Television. Thank you for staying with us. In business now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has directed the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission to guide the implementation of the federal government's National Gas Infrastructure Command Center, strictly under a public-private partnership framework with zero public funding and no contingent liability to government. The Director General of the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, Dr. Jobson Ewelefo, disclosed this at an inaugural meeting at the Project Steering Committee for the NGCC, stressing that the Commission would ensure strict adherence to the terms of the presidential approval and laid down public-private partnership procedures. This is contained in a statement issued by the head of media and publicity, Ifeanyi Uwoko, who noted that the NGCC, designed as a strategic national platform for real-time monitoring and coordination of Nigeria's gas infrastructure, must be fully funded by the private postponement without recourse to public funds or sovereign guarantees. He stressed that the president's directive reflects a clear commitment to fiscal discipline, private sector-led infrastructure delivery, and protection of public resources. The federal government has commenced the implementation of Executive Order 9 of the 2026, which mandates the direct remittance of oil revenues to the Federation Account Allocation Committee. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, disclosed this in a statement issued detailing key resolutions reached at the meeting. This followed the directive of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on the remittance to Federation Account Allocation Committee and the inaugural meeting of the Implementation Committee of the Executive Order. The federal government of Nigeria has unveiled its March 2026 savings bond, offering interest rates of up to 13.906% per annum to retail investors. This was disclosed in a circular published on the website of the Debt Management Office, DMO. The offer presents an opportunity for individuals seeking secure and steady returns backed by sovereign guarantee of the federal government. Moving on, now the African Finance Corporation and the federal government has signed an investment agreement to jointly finance 3 strategic projects. These include a $1.3 billion alumina refinery, a nationwide gas geoscience mapping exercise, and a special investment vehicle to unlock Nigeria's minerals potential. In a statement by the Special Assistant of Media to the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Segun Tamori, the alumina refinery is expected to process about 1 million tons of briquettes annually using a modern Bayer process flow sheet, supported by an on-site gas-fired G-generation plant to generate steam and power. On the foreign scene, Israeli airstrikes hit Beirut's southern suburbs, forcing residents to flee, while Hezbollah responded with missiles and drones targeting an Israeli military site in Haifa. Israel says it killed senior Hezbollah leader and issued mass displacement warning across southern Lebanon. Hezbollah claims its retaliation followed the reported assassination of Iran's supreme leader in Israeli strike on Tehran. United Kingdom Prime Minister Keir Starmer has confirmed that the UK will allow the United States to use British bays for what he described as a specific and limited defensive purpose. Over now to Ediken Michael as he tells us more. We apologize, that report will be brought in our subsequent bulletin. The International Atomic Energy Agency has held an emergency meeting in Vienna following escalating tensions after joint Israel-US strike on Iran and Tehran's retaliatory mission attack. Iran accused the United States of using false claims about weapons of mass destruction as a pretext for aggression, drawing parallels to the 2003 Iraq War. International Atomic Energy Agency Chief Rafael Grossi described the situation as very concerning, urged restraint, and said there is no indication Iran's nuclear facilities have been damaged. Western nations maintain Iran is pursuing nuclear weapons, an allegation Tehran denies. In sports, the Super Falcons have returned to training in Yaoundé after a shock 1-0 defeat to Cameroon in the first leg of their friendly. Yovan's stoppage time goal handed Nigeria the first loss to Indomitable Lioness in 8 meetings. The Falcons will look to bounce back in Tuesday's return leg as they build momentum ahead of their Women's African Cup of Nations title defense in Morocco. The chairman of the National Sports Commission, Shehu Diko, has inaugurated the newly elected board of the Badminton Federation of Nigeria, describing the peaceful election as another major win for the commission. He said the process aligns with the reform mandate of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to reposition Sports Federation for optimal performance. Diko charged the 50-member board led by Francis Orbi to justify its renewed mandate by elevating badminton's profile locally and internationally, urging stakeholders to embrace dialogue and protect the sport's image. Director General Bukola Olupade expressed confidence in the board's capacity to drive grassroots development, while Obim pledged to raise the bar and consolidate on gains recorded in his previous tenure. And that's it on News Prime. But before we go, here is a recap of our top stories again. And on Global TV News Prime, we brought to you that the National Police Council has unanimously endorsed the appointment of Olatunji Diso as Substantive Inspector General of Police. In business, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has directed the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission to guide the implementation of the federal government's National Gas Infrastructure Command Center strictly under a public-private partnership framework with zero public funding and no contingent liability to government. And on the foreign scene, the International Atomic Energy Agency has held an emergency meeting in Vietnam following escalating tensions after joint Israel-US strike on Iran and Tehran's retaliatory missile attacks. And finally, in sports, the Super Falcons have returned to training in Yaoundé after a shock 1-0 defeat to Cameroon in the first leg of their friendly. A quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen by using @GlobalTVNG. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for watching.